Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the special council meeting of Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 to order. First off, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we move right to the report. Welcome, John. Oh, sorry. First, we have to approve the agenda. Sorry, I missed that one. Need a mover and seconder to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Dunstall. Seconder, Councillor Bothwell. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the agenda for the special council meeting of May 25th, 2021 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Good evening, John and Olivia.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I think the clerk wanted to make some introductory comments before we start.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So as per the direction of our last meeting, a council survey was circulated to council to narrow down the options. The report outlines the final result. And as you can see, there was a unanimous vote on one of the options. That was option 5B. So the recommendation for tonight is to consider option 5B as your top recommendation. And I will pass it on to John now for some more details. Or were there questions for me?
Councillor Frank, did you have a question for Sarah?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Yes, I did. I noted that the report has already assumed that we're going to go along with 5B as being the preference. That's not the way I kind of understood it. I thought we were going to give three potential, our three favorite or three most prominent ward boundary ideas in order of preference. So if they're in order of preference, if you just take, you know, the one from each one of us and to say that's the preference we wanted, I think is wrong. I think we should have weighted these numbers so that we come up with a weighted one. But that isn't the case here. For example, I picked 8 as my favorite, and then 6 is my second favorite, and 5B is my third favorite. And I think other folks may have done the same thing. I don't know, but that's the way I thought we were going to do it. And if you weighted each one of those, you probably would have come up with a different suggestion as to which will be on top of the list. That's my thoughts. I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but that's the way I think we should have done it. I still think we should weight our options that we think is right for what we want to do, with maybe 3 points for the preferred one, 2 points for the second, maybe 1 point for the third. That type of idea. I'm going to throw that out there, and I think that might be the way we go, because I think all we did really was just offer 3 options, and now we're just taking the one that comes up the most, and we're offering it as our overall preference. So obviously there's other folks who want to speak to that. So thank you for allowing me to speak to that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Frank. Councillor Vardy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I agree with Councillor Frank. I didn't send mine in any particular order, although I do have preferences. So I would, you know, I think we should kind of quickly restart this. The other issue is, I thought we all agreed that there would be public consultation on what we were doing. We're picking the 3 top options out of the 8 options that were given, and then allowing the public to, you know, to choose which option they felt best, and that we were going to use, you know, all available means, advertising, website, whatever, to get that public input. I'm a little concerned of a little bit of, if we decide there's a little bit of self-interest, potentially. So you know, I'm quite concerned that we're not consulting the public. So I'd just like to put that out there.
Councillor Sharp.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. So I agree with Councillor Freak. I was really in favor of option 8 is number 1. And, you know, 5B is, there's some value to that. I discussed with the clerk earlier today a potential amendment to 5B, but 8 is still my favorite. So when should we discuss that 5B as amended?
Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, 5B was the recommendation, the preferred recommendation put forward from the consultants, and that there was a unanimous vote. So we did put that almost as a placeholder for today. It is up to council to decide which option to choose. So it isn't, let's decide on 5B. It is up for debate. So council can have the debate at any time. If you would like to put forward that amendment, that's fine right now.
So thank you to the clerk. So I would just want to preface this with that 8 is my preferred option. And I think that there is a lot of positive in 8. But I think that if we were to go with 5B, I think there was a neighborhood just below the escarpment that was off of Leawood and off of Klein Mountain Road. And it was a neighborhood that I believe is more similar to the other side of Kelson Avenue and Hunter Road, Geddes, Elmer, Emily, Rosedale, George, Garden Drive, Oriole Crescent, Roberts Road. These homes were all built in around the same time, and they are in Ward 4 currently. And these 2 streets in small surveys got excluded from Ward 4. And so I asked the clerk to prepare a small amendment to that boundary on the west end of town, which would include those 2 streets and those 2 small surveys. And I believe that she did. So I would like to present that as an amendment to 5B, but keeping in mind, my preference is option 8. Does the clerk have that? Can we share that?
John, are you sharing that right now?
If I can be of assistance, I'm happy to do that.
Well, that'd be great, John. Thank you.
And what I can just tell you is I just had a couple of remarks, and I don't want to interrupt the flow of what council's discussing. But what I can just show you is this was 5B. The area that was in question is broadly covered by this circle. And so, yes, this afternoon we managed with the assistance.
Sorry, John, I can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry. Hang on just one sec. My fault.
That's okay. Thank you.
You'd think I'd have figured that out by now. After a year. Have you got it now?
Yes.
Okay. So this was 5B. This circle area, broadly speaking, is the area that was identified. And so with the excellent assistance of your GIS people who turned it around in no time flat, we were able to generate this, which is labeled 5C. Note that there's another 23 letters of the alphabet before we have to get into any kind of more complicated nomenclature. But like that's absolutely why we're here. And we view this as being a very, like, if you will, friendly, or in the spirit of the approach of the thing and in the spirit of the terms of reference. And to make it easier, I can show them to you side by side. So here it is, 5B and then 5C. And if you look at the numbers in 5B are arguably better, but the numbers in 5C are quite good enough. And so if there's better representation achieved by having this area here where my cursor is associated with new Ward 4 instead of new Ward 3, in our view, that's very doable. And we would not view that as being inconsistent with the spirit of what was good about 5B. And in fact, it could well be an improvement. And so we have no trouble with 5C. So there's a few other things I wouldn't mind sharing at some point, but in the spirit of letting you keep moving with conversation, I'll just.
Thanks, John. So this is great work, and thank you for doing this on short notice. So I did receive a little bit of feedback from. So I posted. I'm speaking just in general to my colleagues on social media from May 18th to 21st, and I put the images of all 13 options in the photos. And I got 162 photo views, 17 link clicks to the actual report, and 41 comments. But there was a total of 1,200 engagements. So there's a little bit, bearing in mind, this is on social media, so it's not exactly statistical data. But some of those comments, based on the feedback, there was some support for 1A, 2B, and 3, and those were the 6 and 8 ward options with only one councillor per ward. There was also some support for 4, 5B, and 6A. And there was one suggestion for a 5 ward, 2 councillor option that was never discussed. But at the public meetings held by the consultant, there also showed some interest in these 6 and 8 ward options. But when weighed against the downsides, like having only one representative per ward, many residents also concluded that 4 wards with 2 councillors in each ward was better than 6 or 8 wards with 1 councillor in each ward. One of the common concerns with having 1 councillor per ward was that what if a resident disagrees with their councillor personally or about a specific issue? There will be no other representative to talk to about that issue. Also, having 8 wards with 1 councillor means each ward has less weight at the council table, with only 1 councillor representing their ward issues, not 2. And in this small town environment, our councillors are part-time, and we have 2 councillors in each ward, and there is typically someone you can get a hold of from your ward anytime you have an issue. With 1 per ward, you would have 1 part-time councillor who represents your ward, and you may not have such an easy time getting a hold of someone when there's pressing issues. And anyways, ultimately, the recommendation based on the public meetings and the consultant was 5B, which was 4 wards with 2 councillors. And I can see value in keeping the same structure of council. So without further ado, I just wanted to submit that input to my my colleagues and get their input. And I'm hoping that we can narrow this down to 3 options and then do a straw vote and put in the preferred option. But thank you. Thanks, John, for your work today. And thanks to the mayor.
Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Yeah, I was listening to Councillor Frake, and I kind of agree that we seem to be rushing into it. I almost think we could do it like a ballot, so we vote for the top 3, and whichever one's got the least votes, it's dropped off, and then we vote for the top 2. At least we all get an idea of what, and then we don't have to do a straw vote either. But concerning any more public meetings, it's just my opinion, but I think we've had 4 public meetings, and I think that would suffice. I think we've got enough evidence here from the consultant to show that you know, there's merit in what we're looking at right now, and I think that's enough strength in it that we should be able to vote tonight. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I noticed that, so I echo Councillor Frake and Councillor Vardy's thoughts in the sense that I also provided my top 3, but didn't rate them in order of preference. Since then, I have heard from a number of constituents in my area, specifically requesting consideration for 1A as their preferred choice. I noticed that Welland is also participating right now in a ward boundary review as well. And they've set a timeline that a deadline of July 1st for their municipality to give notice of the passing of their bylaw. I suspect we're on May 25th today, that we do have an opportunity still to reach out to the public with the top 3 choices to get that feedback. And I think that is vitally important that we do that. 24 people is not enough to say that we have had public engagement on this. And they were given information at the beginning of the process to narrow it down. They weren't given the final choices that the consultant has now presented to us. And I think it's critical that we bring these back to the public and have at least a short opportunity and turnaround for that. And then we can get to a council decision. And I would respectfully recommend that we amend the recommendation tonight and ask the clerk to look at somehow wording it that council, well, as Councillor Sharp has said too, or we narrow it down to the three choices, and then we circulate, as we said at the last meeting, to the public and give it a timeline for engagement and come back within the next special council meeting. So I'm asking if there's a way we can look at amending that recommendation to do that. Thank you.
Sarah?
See you, Mr. Mayor. So the top 3 options as per the council survey was 1A, 5B, and 8. So that could be the consideration in the 3 top options, but I think I just need council to decide whether they want to approve 1 tonight or go further with the 3.
So I'm asking if we can amend it so that council just confirms their 3 top choices, and then we reach out for public engagement and return to council for a decision.
So John, I saw you come on.
Sorry, stuck unmuting myself. Just a couple of comments. I think it was very appropriate when Olivia and I bombarded you with the 13 options the other night to take a pause. And honestly, if you hadn't, I would have assumed that you had remarkable powers of processing information and pre-reading documents. And I think it's very much in council's hands whether you wish to decide tonight or whether you wish to take a further step. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I would agree with your neighbors in Welland that you do not want to go one day past July the 1st. Any day you can be done sooner than that is better. Just because of the need to allow for the contingency of an appeal. And so I think the question for you is, firstly, the Municipal Act makes it clear that you're entitled to decide. And I really respect Councillor Vardy's comment about not wanting to be seen to be in any way self-dealing in this. But I have no trouble saying for the record that this has been a splendid process from my perspective about nobody trying to do any micromanaging of the drawing of the boundaries. And in fact, if you look at the boundaries in any of the preferred options, they don't reflect bizarre gerrymandering or strange turns that could only be designed to advantage anyone. And so, my professional opinion would be that that is not really a risk, particularly when there's 2 fun things about the Municipal Act that you're entitled to rely upon. One is the fact that it does say that it's yours to decide, on the strength of a process. And we've put a lot of effort into that process, and making sure that it was compliant. And the second thing is, it's actually interesting. The predecessor version of the Municipal Act in old section 13 had a requirement that there be a public meeting at this stage. And that was actually specifically removed at the last version of the Municipal Act. So you're actually very free to make a decision based on the process that you've had right now so far. And so you shouldn't question your authority to do so. But I think the real question is what Councillor Bothwell and I know others have articulated, which is whether it would be prudent to have one more round of brief, crisp consultation. And I respect what Councillor Frick was saying about, use all means possible and reach as many people as possible. And look, what I would say is this: I really appreciate what Councillor Sharp reported from his social media efforts, because you saw all of the public sessions that we had, and what Councillor Sharp heard was actually extraordinarily representative of what we heard. And so I think it's very likely that if you do a further round of reaching out to people, you might get 25 deputants out, in which case you'd be doing better than we did at our public meetings, because as you know, oftentimes there were sort of 5 to 10. And so if you got twice as many out for a public deputation, then you'd have another 25 individual opinions, and depending on who was stacking the meeting or who wasn't stacking the meeting, then you'd still be left with having to apply your judgment to what would essentially be what I think is a pretty well-known set of facts. And one of the reasons why we did bombard you with so many options was to demonstrate that we'd actually been hugely open about considering everything that made sense, and right up to today, making a further tweak. But the limitations right now are really getting hemmed in by geography and population. And so, I think you would be well within your rights and, appropriate political mandates to decide. I don't think it would hurt if you did a very brief, very focused consultation, because I can't say that you don't have time, because you probably do have another 2 weeks. I'm just not sure what it would get you, because if you did do it 2 weeks from now, or 10 days from now, or 7 days from now, you'd still have to make the choice. You'll likely get a multiplicity of opinion, pretty much the way Councillor Sharp did. I'm not sure you'll have an awful lot of new facts to rely on. And I think it's really important to just remember one other thing, and this will be the last point that I make. The terms of reference, like, it's sort of paradoxical. Usually it's a good idea to ask the most people and see what they prefer. But when you're setting electoral boundaries, you're actually not going with what the majority wants, because that's actually not relevant to the terms of reference. And your terms of reference were absolutely appropriately designed. They reflect all the appropriate and relevant considerations, and none of them is what is the most popular, because your job is to establish what would give effective representation having regard to the Carter test, not which one satisfies the most people, other than yourselves as councillors who are charged with deciding having regard to it. And so, there's a funny paradox where, if 37% of people favored something that totally disenfranchised one part of the municipality, that would be a reason to not support it, not to support it. And so, I just think ward boundary reviews are very, very, very different from normal business, precisely because you're acting in a statutory function to do something that reflects optimal fairness. And so, I think whether you face the decision today or whether you face it in any event before the end of June, you'll be in a very similarly situated situation. I would encourage you that you're probably capable of doing it tonight based on what's in front of you. But I couldn't professionally say that you will mess up your process if you listen to the public one more time. I just think you just need to bear in mind that what you do with that information will be evaluating the options based on your terms of reference, which you very wisely endorsed as having regard to the various factors. And none of those is what's the most popular. And so you should just remember in the back of your mind That's how it's a little bit different from normal. And you might find that somewhat empowering, that your task, whether it's today or whether it's in 2 weeks, is going to be to apply your judgment to those rules, whether people favor the one or the other. Now that, I guess there could be a difference of opinion about whether you want to choose a different structure, like the one per ward, or potentially different council size. But and of course that is still in play if you're considering option 1A as being a preferred one. But I hope I haven't further confused the matter. I don't think you need to do further consultation. I think you've had an extraordinarily robust process that's delivered you consultation, but I find it impossible to sort of contradict Councillor Bothwell when she said, 24 people was a disappointing number to have actually participating in the final version. Nobody would have been more happy than us if what we'd had was, 324 people. But I think perhaps this reflects to some degree the level of public engagement that you have on it. But Councillor Sharp did manage to get 168 voices or 164 engagements or whatever it was, and Councillor Bothwell had some other success. So I just think whatever you do, you need to do it super fast, and you need to recognize its limitations. That at the end of the day, the burden of making a wise decision will still be on you, and you actually can't shed it through public consultation. But happy to be of support, but otherwise I think you're totally on the right track, and would just answer any questions that you have, but leave it to you, because I think you're on the right track.
Thank you, John. Councillor Vane?
Thank you. I think everybody's made some interesting comments. I think we've all gone out and spoken to people, and I think the best one out of the people I've spoken to was the one who said, basically, why are you wasting my time and my money to pick where you guys govern? I'll vote for whoever I want to in whatever ward I'm in. To do more consultation is a burden on our staff who are already maxed out. To get another 25 people out of 30,000, again, a big waste of time in my mind. We were elected to make some decisions on our own. I appreciate we want to go back to people and get their opinion. If it's something of major importance to the town, by all means. That's why we have budget meetings and stuff. But to sit here and decide how big a ward is, when I brought this forward, this motion, the whole intent that I brought forward initially was to see if we needed all 9 members of council. The ward boundaries was added as a secondary, and that's fine, and I respect that. Now, like John himself just said, you look at the numbers, the whole idea from some of the councillors was that they felt they had more responsibility than other councillors, and I respect that. And that's what I've said to people who ask why we're wasting time and money on this, is because it was out of whack. It's now not out of whack. We just have to pick one of the 3. You know what, we've got to stop. We've got to start doing what we were elected to do, and that's make decisions. Let's make our decisions. Let's move on. Nobody's going to phone me up tomorrow and be all upset because they're not in this ward or that ward. It's just not necessary to do this to our staff and to the residents. Anyways, I think we've wasted enough time and money on this. No disrespect, John. Sorry, I don't mean that. I mean, what I mean is that we've spent enough time and money on this. It's time to accept John's comments. It's time to move on. Let's have a vote tonight. Let's make a decision and move forward. We've got other things that are far more important than where we run as politicians, because that's really what it boils down to. It's us. The people don't really care. Thank you.
Councillor Frick?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I respectfully disagree with Councillor Vane, because I think that to say that the people don't care is very dismissive of the people of this town. And I'm sure you didn't mean it quite that way, but that's the way it's coming across. And I think we owe the people of this town, the voters and the residents of this town, an opportunity to have a last kick at this thing. When John did this particular consultation, I think he had 4 sessions, which I attended all of them. I would treat the folks that did join in that session as residents were more like consultants than people who were going to vote on what that which particular ward boundaries they liked. So the next step is now to go out to the people and let them choose which of those ones that were chosen as a part of that consultation that they want. And, if we have to vote tonight that as a council to pick the ward boundary and without going back to the people, I think that's unfair. So I think there's a lot of folks out there who want to want to have a say. And I hopefully I'm not wrong on that, but I think there's more people out there than you may think that want to have a say on this. They don't want to consult on it, but they'd like to know what choices they might have. So let's let them have a view of what those choices are and let them vote. And I still say we need to wait as in WEIGHT, we weight each one of our options. Just picking 3 is not good enough, because I think we need to weight them and then go from there, then pick the 1, 2, 3. And if we're going to vote as a council, at least do that much. And we may even have to vote as a council to decide whether we're going to do this at a council or go back up to the people. So I'm not sure which way we're going to do this, but I would like to think we're going to weight these. And can I make a motion that we weight our preferences and go from there? I mean, can we do that, Madam Clerk?
Sorry, Councillor Frick.
Yes, can I make a motion that we, as a council, weight our preferences? Because I mean, just picking 3 willy-nilly is not good enough. And I believe that what the consultants gave us is enough to go on. I think we just have to weight them and pick the ones that are top 1, 2, 3. Can we at least weight them and then go from there?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. If we,
Does anyone have an issue with that? I mean, I don't think we're all, seeing exactly what we wanted as a preference. And I'd like to see us weight these these different versions and come up with top 1, 2, and 3. I welcome any other input, but I mean, I'd like to make a motion in that direction.
well, why don't we just go through the speakers list for the people that haven't spoke, and then we'll address your motion after everyone spoke once.
I have no problem with that. Thank you.
Great. All right, Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan, for allowing my first kick at this. I guess the question I do have is with regards to the 4 public meetings, and again, maybe the staff can help me out, or John or Olivia, what was the percentage increase in the number of residents? Like, was there more residents getting on board at each meeting? Was the number growing, or was it staying the same? And again, with all due respect, I want to thank the residents who did participate with their input. It was good input. So that's one of my first quick questions.
I can answer that,
Just
Mr.
a bit of
Mayor.
a breakdown, John, as a percentage of did it show that more people got on board as we progressed to more meetings?
I don't know that you could say anything other than, and I think there were 5 public meetings in the end. There were between 5 to 10 participants who were members of the public at each of those meetings. I think those who participated, and then I really have to thank members of council, because many of you were terrific supporters and came to all of them. You saw yourself, everyone who went through it went through kind of a journey on it, and brought a very interesting range of diametrically opposed sometimes perspectives. That made it incredibly useful to us, which is one of the reasons why that kind of focus group research is often really valuable, because what happens is you sort of start pulling it in different directions like a piece of taffy, and you wind up stretching it. And that's why we have 13 different options that reflect those various things. But I couldn't say to you, Councillor, that more people were getting on board, as you put it, as the process progressed. It was more, they brought their different perspectives, they learned about the process, and then they participated through the various surveys once public meetings were over. As you can see from the slide, there's give or take 122 participants in the first round. And then, as Councillor Bothwell noted, only about 24 in the second. So we noticed a drop off in participation in the second round.
Yeah, that's part of my question, John, is if we go to the public again, which I I'm thinking a survey in a different format, because I don't see the numbers that, through a Zoom meeting or whatever, really, going strongly. But if we were to do it again, now, if the new people that want to get involved, would they have to somehow be educated in a format that, okay, you're showing me how to, what I'm getting at, John, is do you have to get, pretty much run the whole meeting again just to educate the new people that may want to participate? Like, how, if I was new and I'd say, well, you want me to vote, but I don't know a lot about the details to all the different, the different options. So that could be challenging too. That's all I'm going to say. On this point, I have another point too.
Well, I can just respond to that one because you're absolutely right. On the one hand, there's the point that Councillor Frake makes, which is people do care. And on the other side of it is, coming into the ward boundary review at this stage, even with simplified options, is a bit like coming into the 5th season of Game of Thrones and trying to figure out, who's who. And the problem is, it's not a straight up matter of preference. It's the test that people are meant to be applying is the Supreme Court of Canada's test. Because if they say, oh, I like that feels like where my neighborhood is, that only sort of matters. So that there's a great problem in research, that's sort of inelegantly called garbage in and garbage out. And I think it's a real problem that if you don't ask exactly the right questions of people who have been properly briefed to be able to answer the question, then you certainly show your willingness to consult, but you don't get much that's of value. And so this is why, when I was saying before, I think you have to be skeptical about what you would get out of a further round of conversation. It wasn't out of any disrespect for the willingness of Grimsby folk to engage. It's just the decision that you'll have to make won't be based on their casual impressions of 3 maps. It's got to be based on your application of how you understand effective representation to apply. And so what they tell you has got to be helpful to you. And if it's not, then you'll have to filter it out anyway.
Yeah, thanks, John, for your comments. And just reading the slide here with the engagement opportunities, like, wow, we really did. I think opportunity was set really high for the public, and it's unfortunate that there isn't more, but that's life, that's reality, the way it stands right now. So I would also like to, if we could pick our top 3, I would be favorable to that, and then try to narrow it down. Councillor Frake was mentioned. I hope we're not going to look at all the options one by one. I think we were given an email and we were asked to do a little bit of homework, and the homework did get responded back to staff. So yeah, if we could get it down to 3 and then maybe 2, then 1. But at this time, I feel comfortable that I attended, I think, at least 4 meetings. And there were, again, the information that I learned and picked up and the notes that I took, and then from the consultant's report, the recommendations. In my mind, I'm in a comfortable position to pick what I think would be a good choice from my perspective. So I'll stop there. Let everybody else. It's going to be a long night. So thank you.
So the only one who hasn't spoken in this round is Councillor Ritchie. And happy birthday, by the way, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan.
Did you want to make any comments, or?
No, I'm good at this time. Thank you.
All right. And so you have a resolution. Now, Councillor Cadwell, did you want to second Councillor Frake's resolution?
I would second it.
Mayor
Right.
Jordan, if I may.
Yes. Yeah.
Could we ask, or I'd like to hear a comment from you on how this went too, if you don't mind. I think I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I concurred with the recommendations made by the consultant, and I think my first choice was 5B. All right, so I'll
Mayor
read the
Jordan?
resolution. Yes, Councillor Sharp?
I would second Councillor Freak's motion. And I would ask if you would amend it to say that, to narrow the choices down to 5C, 1B, 5C, and 8. Sorry, 1A, 5C, and 8. And Councillor Freak, if he is amenable to that, I would like to second that motion.
I'm okay with that.
Just curious, Counselor, what happened to 5B?
We amended, I proposed an amendment to it as 5C. It's very, very similar. It's just got that little neighborhood included in Reward 4. It's almost exactly the same. We showed it earlier today.
Yes. We actually never voted on an amendment yet, so.
Well, it's technically not an amendment. It's a option C.
The clerk's going to make some comments.
Okay.
Sarah?
So just to clarify, I think Councillor Frake wanted weighted options, right? So are we deciding on 3 options right away, or are we opening all the options to council for input and we'll weigh the options, all the options, and pick the top 3, and that those top 3 options go out for public consultation?
Hey, can I speak to that?
Yes, Councillor Frake.
Yes. That's basically what I'm saying, Sarah. I would like to see us, each one of us has picked 3, I believe, and we probably picked them in order of our preference. I think we all have a preference 1, 2, and 3. I'm second guessing now. That's everybody. Maybe they don't care whether it's 1, 2, or 3 of their options. But I'm thinking that everybody has a preference of first, second, and third. And looking around the table here, I think that I'm probably right in saying that. But if we all pick our 3 options and weight them, 3, 2, 1, then we'll come up with the top 1. Make sense? We should only take 5 minutes for us to weight what we want. It shouldn't take a week or 24 hours, 48 days, or whatever. We should be able to do it right here within 5 minutes. We all know what our preferences are. And then we have.
Can we take a?
How long will it take to weight them? It won't take that long.
Could we take a 5-minute recess and do that?
We could do that, yeah. So are we narrowing it between 1A, 5C, and 8?
No.
Instead of opening all the options? And I think that's what Councillor Sharp was proposing, right? 1A, 5C, and 8?
Well, I was suggesting that we each weigh each one of our options that we like and the preference we want.
In any options, yeah.
It's a little bit different than what Councillor Sharp was saying, but we may end up in the same place.
Yeah, I think all roads end in Rome if we weight them.
Yeah.
But it's just to make it quicker.
I think it's quicker if we just take the 3 of our 3 of our options and just weight them, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So
I don't even know if we need a resolution to do that. We can just take a recess.
Recess and come back with our, and if Sarah, if you want us to send them to you, or I don't know how you want to do that, but I think that might be the best way to go, and we come up with a consensus of opinion.
We can take a 10-minute recess, and everyone can send in their top 3 options.
Could, Mr. Mayor, through
Yes.
you, could we not just go through everybody 3 times very quickly? What's your first choice? What's your second? What's your third? And, bing, bang, boom, it's done.
I second that idea from Councillor Vardy.
I fear that would be, we'd probably be here all night justifying each one of our options, and I think it just.
So what we'll do is each councillor can pick their 3 options right now. We'll just go like a roll call, and then we'll take a break so Sarah has time to compile them.
I'm okay with that.
And it can be done in we can be finished by 8 o'clock on that.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
All right, so why don't I start right now? Councillor Bothwell?
So you want my order 1, 2, and 3?
Yep.
Number 1 is 1A, number 2 is 5B, number 3 is 2B.
Councillor Dunstall?
So I'm going to do 5C, 8, and 1A.
Counselor Frake,
8, 6, and 5B.
Counselor Cadwell,
There we go, unmute. Yeah, I'm just looking it over again. I like 5C, 8, and 1A.
Counselor Ritchie,
My first choice will be 8. My second choice will be 5C. And third choice, doesn't really matter. Let's go with 7.
Counselor Sharp,
Just one moment. My first choice would be 8. My second choice would be 5C. And my third choice would be, one second. Either 4 or 4B. 4B.
4B, Counselor Vane,
Excuse me, I'd like 8, 5C, and I really don't care about third choice. So I'll do like Councilor Ritchie. I'll do 7 for 3.
Counselor Vardy,
1A, 8, and 5C.
Mayor Jordan.
5C.
Oh, you're muted.
5C, 1A, and 2B. Yep. All right, we'll just take a 5-minute recess.
I'm sorry, Mayor Jordan, can I just, point of order, can I change my vote because I misunderstood and I voted based on what I'd originally put in the submission to the clerk in my original vote, but I will support 5C rather than 5B, please.
So 5C as your second.
Yes, please, thank you.
All right, we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back, everyone. We have screen sharing of a graph of the voting for the top three choices, and it looks like 5C and 8 are tied with 18, and 1A is in third with 10. So how are we going to move on this? All right.
Just
So
vote up.
probably the best thing is for council to vote between the two.
Councillor Bothwell,
After deep thought, number 8.
Councillor Dunstall,
My thoughts aren't quite as deep, but after deep thought, I'll pick number 8 also.
What is it?
oh, do you want to see the two? Okay. Councillor Frake,
Without any more deep thoughts, I'll pick 8.
Councillor Cowell,
I'm still a believer in, they're both good choices, obviously, but I'm a believer in 5C. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie,
We'll choose number 8.
Councillor Sharp,
8.
Councillor Vane,
Well, it looks like 8's going to be the winner here. Let's go with 8.
Councillor Vardy,
8.
Mayor Jordan,
5C. So we have a resolution for council's choice, which was number 8. I need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Sharp, seconded by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that report TC 21-04 dated May 25th, 2021 be received, and the council approve option 8 for the council structure and ward boundary review. All in favor? That's carried. Yeah. Thank you so much, John and Olivia, and for your presentation and for all the time we've spent going through this. It certainly was mountains of information, and you've done your job royally to get through this and to give us some direction. Thank you, John.
Mayor Jordan,
Yes, Councillor Sharp.
can I just ask one final question from John? What is the next step now? Where does this go from here? Just for information.
Yeah, the clerk will prepare a notification to the public, and then that allows there to be a period of time where there can be a public appeal commenced. And once you clear the appeal period, and you pass a formal bylaw. Sarah will have that in a more specific form for you.
Okay, thank you very much, John and Olivia. Thank you.
Need a mover and seconder for first reading of the bylaw. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Cadwell. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 21-37 and that same be read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. You mover and seconder for second and third reading. Counselor Frake and Counselor Sharp. Moved by Counselor Frake, second by Counselor Sharp. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 21-37 read a first time, now be read a second and third time and finally passed, and the mayor and town clerk do sign and seal the same and rule council to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor? That's carried. That's it. Good night, everyone. And again, happy birthday, Counselor Ritchie.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.